winners or cheddars are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed.
Hey everyone, guess what? It's time for Plato's Cave. Good morning to wherever you are. If you happen to be on the east coast of the US, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I think if you're on the west coast, it might be 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, depending on the time of year and the daylight savings appropriate to each of those regions. And I think we are 7 a.m. Eastern. So, like I said, good morning. If you're anywhere else in the world, I don't want to say good evening and good night. It's not appropriate. It's not my call. But enjoy it. Enjoy the day. It was lovely here. Very cold. Very cold. Where I was this morning and the work that I'm currently doing is hands-on parcel delivery. It's very cold. Even my hands were aching. They were stinging with the cold. I think it was almost freezing. I think the feels like temperature was 1.2 degrees or something like that. But it was kind of dry. So, it would have been worse if it was a lot of moisture in the air. But anyway, having said that, wow. I'm broadcasting out of Darkajung country today. And Mackie can't be with us at the moment. He's not feeling very well. He has the flu, the dreaded one that hit us a few years ago. He's currently got that. He's surviving it. And he should be joining us hopefully this Sunday. Otherwise next week. Not a problem whatsoever. So, broadcasting, yes, blah, blah, blah. Buy some merchandise or donate if you like anything we say. Join us in the chat room. I'm right there now. I'm there. Hi Toys with a Z. Comet. Let's see. It's very early for Fleddy. I can see. Yeah. A lot of good. Wow, some comments have been deleted. Who does that? Who even does that? Who does it? I don't know. Anyway, tune into us online on your smart device via an app or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop digital radio, a DAB. You can get one of those and just sit it on your desk. You'd have a nice cup of coffee in the morning. Don't need a computer. You can just do that, dial it in, and voila, guess what? You listen to Rev Radio. Call it Rev Radio for short. Revolution.radio is the actual website name, believe it or not. I think that's pretty cool. In the olden days, you could just have .com, what was it, .gov, .org. They were the domain types. But now, you can just have whatever you want. And I think .radio is fantastic. And revolution.radio, even better. Do donate to the station, help it keep running. It does cost money. There's now cloud servers involved, and there's cloud storage for all of the archives. Jump into the archives and download our shows in MP3 format. Makes it really easy to listen on any device, to be honest. And if you're going on a long flight or a long drive, you can download them and put them on your device so you can be offline, like in flight mode. And you can listen to any of the host shows by doing that and catch up in case you've fallen behind. I know in our Shiny Side Out, we have very long, maybe 10 episode arcs where we talk for an hour on a particular topic, and you can either find them on YouTube or Rumble. We've kind of moved to going to Rumble primarily, and then we move it across to YouTube. But you can find our material either in the station's archive, on Rumble, on Spotify, Twitter or X, if you will, and YouTube. When we can afford it, we'll have a paid locals account, possibly, but we need some monetization, and we can only get monetization by the amount of followers we have and viewing hours. We want more viewing hours, and we want people to watch our shorts. So if you ever see one of our shorts come up, watch the shorts for us, comment, share, like and subscribe to our channel. All of that helps the algorithm. And this isn't a desperate plea. It isn't. What we're asking for is, can you have the power to manipulate the algorithm by doing those things? Just help us out. That's all we ask. And by helping us out, you actually get this message or our messages, which you know you agree with. Or if you disagree, that's fine. Comment below. We'll reply. That's how this whole thing works. And you know what? You can join us in the chat room and talk to us while we're on air. And that's the magic of today's modern radio stations. Talking to the host while they're on air. What? Who does that? Well, we do it. We've done it for years. For 14 years. I think this is the 14th year, that we've been on air. And the station was alive for about a year before I found it. And then I was offered a show by Nighthawk. Thank you, Nighthawk. May he forever rest in peace. He passed away, didn't see the fruit of his efforts as far as prepping and, mistrust of the government. Who knew it was going to get so bad? Who knew? I think we all kind of guessed it was going to happen. But the tyrannical government never kind of emerged. We found our government's... what's the best way of describing it so I don't have a lawsuit? Because in Australia we don't have freedom of speech. We don't even have it written as you can say whatever you like, because you can't. And with the new laws, everything you do and say is linked to you. Doesn't matter if you try to be anonymous or if you have 10 billion accounts. There'll be a moment by the end of the year where to use any social media, you need to be over the age of 15, so 16 and up, and you need to prove yourself to be that age and that person by having an application that proves who you are, so the government can come after you if you say the wrong thing, or if you happen to be, liable or slanderous towards anybody, then that person can also pursue you because you are you and you're not anybody else. There's no one pretending to be you, and it just is what it is. And this includes, no doubt, what we're doing, but also through social media accounts. And this is the world of Big Brother. And just before I could go any further, can I say I love the AI, I love the leader, and I'll make a great pet if the aliens turn up and decide to take us over. Because I don't think the abductions, this is just a stupid point to make, but I'm of the strong belief that we already have what some people would call possibly an alien race living on the planet that signed an agreement with the governments, and they live in the Southern Ocean or somewhere or underground or whatever it is, and that all of that was in trade to be able to share some tech and possibly undergo experimentation of the humankind. I don't know. I don't know. I can't say. There's a lot of people talking about it though, and certainly with the rise of let's call it disclosure for UFOs. Let's just call it that. Because it's not really. It's, what we've done, you see, this is NASA. What we've done, the government. You know what? We included another description. So an option. It's either misidentified aircraft, for want of a better word. It is because, you know, people don't really know what they're looking at. And if they're not a trained observer, it could be a plane or a bird, migrating geese. If they're not a scientist, it could be swamp gas. Yeah, it could be Venus. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at Venus. It could be that. But because you're not a trained observer, you're not a scientist. You don't know. You're just a person. And therefore, what you might have seen, whether 1,000 people saw it at the same time and they all have the same description, and some of those are police officers or military of some kind, or even trained observers. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's just misidentified something else, and it's nothing to worry about. Now, those messages only come about if there's already an agreement in place. If it were really something, if there was really something in the sky that they didn't know about, they'd want everybody to report everything all the time. That's what they would want. And because they don't, and I'm going to put my little warning screen up. Hello, little warning screen. Oh, yeah, there it is. So we read news articles and scientific papers, perform thought experiments, provide societal context on material we mention, including our own ideas and experience, discussing trends or implications, if any, and postulate agendas and implications of those agendas. We do not provide any financial, medical, social, political advice, and we do not incite violence or racial action to any cause of any kind. Now, you might wonder, why am I reading that out? Because the algorithm, the AI, people, even people watching our clips, have accused us of doing the things we say we don't do, and looking for the things we say we do. That sounds like poop, but it's not. The problem is that you don't meet your accuser as far as social media is concerned. There is no accuser. There is a response, an issued statement that said, you violated community standards, and then there's an appeal button. So you click the appeal button, and then you wait. And it just says, denied. I've even talked to some legal friends of mine who have listened to the offending material and, well, the alleged claimed offending material, and said there isn't anything in here that contravenes the community standards at all. And we've even provided timestamps and transcripts to say this is what we said, and it still says denied. And the episode is deleted. Thankfully, I have a complete copy, full backups of all the material. There's only a couple in the early days, probably at 20 shows, that were just vanished. They vanished entirely without even a message from YouTube. They just got up and disappeared. Like the government, I'm just not saying it was, but like the government just reached in and just plucked them out, they were gone. Like they never happened. Like a Mandela effect. But we know it is. It is not a Mandela effect that we recorded something and now it's gone. It might have upset some wrong people who have written a kind letter to YouTube back in the early days and had it removed. I don't know. I can't say how or why, but they just disappeared. They vanished. So the word vanished is probably the most appropriate because no explanation was ever given. And that's why we fell out of favor with social media and the trust that we used to have. I think that's really important. The trust is built, it's earned, and they failed. They failed entirely. They failed every time I've hit the appeal button. We still have a strike on our YouTube. You know, we had 33,000, I think, views last month or whatever. I know they're rookie numbers to people who have millions of views in the first hour. But that's why we ask, can you like, subscribe, share, and comment? All those help. If you imagine, if you pour a drop of water, just a single drop of water on a table and measure its perimeter, that perimeter is the size of the initial viewership, say. How many impressions, that's when it's presented to someone and they have a choice, whether they click on it or not. That's still an impression, doesn't mean that they viewed it. If you poured half a cup of water onto a table and that perimeter you measure out, that is what happens when you get likes, you get views, you get comments. This perimeter is the amount of new impressions. I know the algorithm doesn't work this way, but it's a great analogy in enabling someone to comprehend what it means. So there's a great volume of current views and let's say interaction. So there's a great content, a great number of interactions, and the perimeter gets larger. The outside perimeter is, pi r squared. So that as it expands, that number starts to become extraordinarily large. And we've seen some videos of ours get 28,000 views pretty quickly, and that's because it hit on it, like on the pulse of the common conversation. And thank you very much to everyone who's listened to any of our shorts or reels or long form videos. Really appreciate it. But I'm not trying to be desperate here. I'm asking that if you can you please subscribe, because more than 90% of the people that watch our material aren't subscribed to our channel, and it would really help out. And every single time I've heard that from someone that I've watched on YouTube or Rumble for that matter, I do subscribe. I ask nicely like I've done, and I hit subscribe. So I'd love to be able to see this positively impact our channel and try and get us back into favor with our social media providers. Thank you very much. Rumble, thank you very much. YouTube, despite what I say about you, thank you very much. X is a little new. We now are also on Insta for our reels. And I like I said. And oh, by the way, if you'd like to suggest things that we should research, you can put that into the bottom of any of our videos, and we will read them and reply. And if it's research material, soon we'll have a Discord server so that we can openly discuss things with you directly, and you can just message us straight away. So let's work on that. Anyway, getting into the news, I'm really surprised. There's almost no what am I going to say? There's almost no mainstream media presence of the 7.4, 7.3 here with the USGS earthquake that happened near Alaska. There was some local reports of a tsunami. Possibly, I saw some footage that showed the water disappear and then come back a little higher and then come back down again. So it would have only been half a meter or something like that. But the threat went out, and we'll see in the morning if there was anything else, because it's kind of nighttime now. So we'll see. But still an extraordinary size, 7 point something or other. It makes me wonder, it really does, why people aren't reporting this. Maybe it's just old news. Maybe they don't want to tell us anymore. Every single story that you hear in the media, I'm going to say it again, is pushing out another story. If you've only got, let's say, if you've ever seen, let me put it this way, if you have seen how an aircraft controller at an airport controls the planes that are coming in, So they'll have a little board, some slides, and they can put it's a while ago I saw this, but they can put the aeroplanes in the order they want them to land, and it becomes organized. The controller is able to then guide them through different paths to be able to arrive at the airport with enough gap for the plane to land in front of them. Then they land, and they've moved out of the way, and the next lands. It's like a ballet. It's wonderful, really is. But that little piece, the piece that you might see, I might put my video on. There we go. So the little piece that has the little slide names of the planes with some tape on them, that thing is the amount of stories. Say it's 5 stories. 5 stories that come in to the newsroom, and they juggle the order. Another story comes in. One of those, either the story that's just come in is too weak and won't make it. It's curated, and so it might be the top story pushing out the bottom one. It's only room. It's only room for 5. If you hear more than 5 stories, tell me. Comment below. I'm going to tell you 5 stories is the top amount of stories for the day. In the out of hour, in the between news programs discussions, they might talk about it, but it never makes the big stories list to hit the main hour news or the headlines, which is what people normally are attracted to. They gravitate towards those. It's a quick consumption of these stories, and then that's the end of that. If you'd like to push out a story that you really wish that didn't air, then if you're the government, you can put out a leak, put out something controversial out into the media. That'll get up there, and if you can beat the one that you don't like, it's gone. It'll never see the time of day. And voila, you've just escaped another massive problem. Because there is only the Reuters tear-off style of news style now, right? So it just goes, and they just tear it off. In the olden days, now it's kind of an email list, and your news director, and someone's organizing his stories. But did you know there was a CIA operation to plant CIA operatives in the news centers as news directors and they were getting 2 wages. They'd be getting one from the news outlet and one from the CIA. And they were curating the news to ensure no stories went to air that they didn't want to go to air. And really? Is that a thing? Oh, it's a thing, all right. That's really what happens. So, not sure if it still happens, because now there's just the Reuters tear-off. They'll be issued a statement, and then they'll pretty much read that statement to air. And that's the end of that. And they'll just move on. The little inset picture next to them will come and go, and they'll have moved on to the story that they prefer is aired. So it made, in its heyday, before the internet, it made that whole process so easy, because this existed both in the newsprint and news video mediums. So you weren't getting away from that. News radio, same, because that was just run by the same networks. So yeah, just extraordinary. I'll keep going. Now, there was a story here. I'll do a local Australian story. I know it doesn't mean much to anyone else, but by saying this story, see how it applies to you and where you live. We've just gone back up in unemployment rates, back up to 4.3% in June, so the prior month. And that was quoted as the reason for the Reserve Bank to keep the interest rates on hold. Oh, it's unemployment is rising. We must keep the interest rates on hold. Why? They called this a sharp rise from 4.1 to 4.3. But you know these numbers are seasonally adjusted. So they're not accurate figures. Someone's got a lever and they can make it look like whatever they want to make it look like due to how they feel that morning. I know I'm cynical because as soon as I heard that numbers were seasonally adjusted, it meant that someone is determining what it should be. There isn't an automated process and some percentages that they can use to throttle it one way or another, and it's none of the equation is advertised to anybody. None. And the unemployment figures that you might be able to witness on the screen. So the Bureau of Stats is a government department, yet again. I'm sure they're all honest and trustworthy people, performing the data on behalf of the people, not the government. Kidding. It says unemployment increased by 2,000 people in June. Okay. And so that means that jumped by 33,600 people. It jumped up to that number. So since employment, 2,000 plus people, and unemployment, 33,600, both increased in June, the size of the active labour force grew by 35,000. See, now that doesn't make any sense, but that's okay. I'm all right. And then they go here, they say, the growth in the labour force helped the participation rate to increase a little from 67 to 67.1%, putting it just shy of its record high of 67.2% in January. So they're saying there was a record high of employment, oddly, when we have 4.3% unemployed, which has risen. Where are all these other people coming from? Maybe there was 2,000 people that arrived into our country and are still unemployed. I don't know. It says part-time employment grew by 40,000 people. So you know what part-time employment means? You're employed. Even though if the hours are insufficient to pay any of your bills and you're still living, say, hand to mouth, week to week, paycheck to paycheck, that you're no longer unemployed if you've even got any work whatsoever. They're saying full-time employment fell by 38,000 people. But hang on, part-time grew by 40. So while 38,000 people lost their job, unemployment grew by 2,000. That kind of makes sense. And then part-time employment grew by 40,000. I don't know. I think they pull these numbers out of their butt. But having said that, here's your seasonally adjusted rate, which is just like a smoothing thing, they reckon. That's really funny. Seasonally adjusted, and it's a huge spike, and they don't show the trend for the spike for some reason. That's nuts. I told you, seasonally adjusted is the thing. Just take that in for a minute. They seasonally adjusted the numbers. This is during COVID, of course, right? And then down the bottom here, we had 3.4. And the unemployment rate, if you draw a trend line, you can see the unemployment rate is just going up. So is that a good economy when the unemployment rate goes up? Or is it a good economy when the unemployment rate goes down? Well, you tell me. So we had many more people of a seasonally adjusted number, which could be any number, They can just pluck from somewhere. 6.3% back in 2015, all the way to 5.2%. And now we're climbing up from 3.5 to 4.3, I think, is the last number. You tell me that's a good market. I don't think it is. I think we're in strife, and I predict we're going to see a sharp rise in people losing their jobs because of replacement by AI that businesses are driving to be able to save money or actually make more profit. That's really important these days. Are we just becoming more efficient? I say no. How is the economy going to continue to run if we get back up to these crazy numbers up here of 6% or higher of unemployment, or even 7.4 during the COVID era? How are we going to do it? Where are all these people's houses going to go? Back onto the market and sell for? If we flood the market, the prices can't go up. The prices go down because no one has money. So that means the interest rates would have to go down to provide people money that they should have had if they were employed. I'm thinking we're going to get to a point where universal basic income is replacing people's work. That's what I think. We're at a point now where you can have AI, say customer, right, frontline customer contact. We could do that with AI now, AI characters in the accent of your choice. The character could be local, accented to the caller by catchment area. That would work. So as someone calls in, it's determined when they start answering some questions, who they are, and provide them with a peer that can then guide them through the experience. I think that's a wonderful idea. What a great idea. Unfortunately, then the person who would have fulfilled that job is now unemployed. Not everyone can be an Uber driver. Not everyone can do one of the Uber Eats, for instance. Not everyone can do that. Do you have a moped? Moped sales should be going through the roof. I'm being silly. I really am. It's a very long day for me, and I've lost the ability to be sensible, and I'm just going to sprout nonsense. That's what's going to happen. There is another story here, and I was yet again surprised to see, if I put it this way, the most persecuted people on the planet, historically, now striking Syria. Their military headquarters and area near Presidential Palace in third day of attacks. This, I don't think, it only today made our mainstream news. I just wish people had tucked themselves in for bed and not doing anything. I'd prefer they did that. Just stop. Stop with the warring rubbish, and let's just get on with a nice peaceful planet. Be great. If we could do that, I think we might be heading in the right direction. But if you want to continue to upset the apple cart, what's going to happen? I watched the other day. Was it today? No, yesterday. I watched today. There was a lady at the KFC counter going full Karen. I don't want to talk to you. And then she pointed at the manager, who was saying, I'm sorry, ma'am. I'd like if you could stop with the profanities. It's okay. We're here to help you. And the poor, the kids The kids today, I swear, at tops, I'd say the person was 17 that was taking the order and was being abused by the person who hadn't even paid yet and was having problems with their card, completely furious with the person like it was their fault. No, it's your card. You're presenting a card before the card reader is ready. And then they would add something to the order and then try and pay. And was furious. Like it was anyone's fault but their own. And they were the one in the wrong. And it was so sad to watch this poor kid. I mean, really. If I was that child's parent, which I'm not, but if I were, I would have said, look, can you just stand down? They're really trying to help you. They are trying to help. And I don't think you're making it better for everyone. But then I have to say, I don't know what that person, let's call that person a Karen, for want of a better word. I don't know what that person had been through before that moment, before trying to buy lunch for her son, I think. Son or daughter, it's irrelevant for her offspring. I presume offspring. I don't know what she'd been through. It's sad. It's so sad to see someone so frustrated over a technology and flustered to the point where they were incapable of making rational decisions about their next movement. Their hand with their card. Clearly, they've tapped before. Because Australia is actually the highest rate of tap to pay in the world. We're such great adopters of technology, especially when it makes it easy for us, that we were the highest rate adopters of credit cards with the chip in them. We were the highest rate of conversion from cash to tap. The convenience is just tremendous. We already had our banks set up to be able to make all of this work. And so the next step in our path is universal basic income and my ID app with the government and jag all mein Herr to our government leaders who are about to restrict our ability to say or do anything online. It's the way of the world. It really is. And so I'm less and less willing to say anything terrible against anyone in particular for fear of reprisal. We know that social media, globally, is what it is. In England, they're locking people in jail for saying the wrong thing. Whether it's, and I don't believe anyone should hate on anyone in particular. I remember I didn't hate on that lady. I was just really surprised that she went Karen on this poor kid. And for all those Karens out there, that it's a stereotype that it's the asymmetrical haircut, probably gym clothes, and an attitude that's way bigger than everybody else's. And can you just get the manager? Now, no one filmed this Karen in Australia, so she wasn't going full Karen. She wasn't both barrels. She was frustrated. Everyone gave each other side eye, though, I have to say, while it was going on, going, "Ooh, that's a bit much." You know what I mean. I like the expression side eye. My friend and I have been making jokes about this, and Australia used to be in the Five Eyes, but now we only get the side eye. I love that joke. It's so good. If only I could write material, or my friend and I could write material for someone doing stand-up. That'd be great. It wouldn't be funny. I think you just stare and look at them for the entire act and wonder why you were in the audience or why someone convinced them to get on stage and tell all these terrible one-liners. But, nonetheless, I'm not afraid. I am not afraid. I'm not afraid to say, within context, what I mean. And I'm certainly not afraid of talking to random people about anything. I was even thinking about just doing like a vox pop thing on the street and trying to get people to openly discuss their own lives, to see what we could discover about this time slice that we're living inside right now. It's almost like 1993. Some people have mentioned this, and I don't agree with it specifically, or particularly, I don't agree. But there's people talking about this point in time today that we're already in the Matrix. I don't agree. But there's some interesting arguments that 1993 was the year that we got swapped in to the Matrix. It's thin at best, this description of where we are right now. They say because that's when everything started to change. No, I disagree. I think if there was ever a time that COVID might have been it. Because in 2001 we were still very hopeful. I was watching some old Bryant Gumbel Good Morning America video. I used to watch a lot of the morning shows, American morning shows back then, because you get a really good feel for a country by watching their morning people talking. It's new to them. It's a brand new day. Talk about anything you want. And not when they're reading from the auto cue, but when they're off script and how they interact and what's good and what's bad. And in early 2001, there was some very interesting hope, advantage, positivity, joyfulness, all these positive words that you can see now looking back to then. We can see today that is not the case. We're trying to make the best of it now. It's kind of like the Will Smith slap. There's a moment afterwards where Chris doesn't hold the piece of his face that was slapped, proving to me that it was a miss. I don't think he really got slapped. That's just me. And there's only one camera angle that they kept, but the other one that was being broadcast showed a distinct gap between the two, and the whole thing seemed like it was a setup. Don't know why. It actually had, I think there was a scene in the past very similar to it. But anyway, putting that aside. Oh, how big is that earthquake? Let me have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's not even enough to get you out of bed. So, that was an expression we had in California when I went to school. If it didn't throw you out of bed because it was so large, it wasn't worth getting up for. Oh, and talking about earthquakes. So, in case you couldn't hear the donging of the bell, which is Earthquake 3D, you should get yourself Earthquake 3D. I'm not sponsored by it, but you should get it. Pay a subscription fee, a donation to start, and have your own warning system, your early warning system. So there was back then, back in 2001, this this hope and joy. And today it looks like, they're trying to make the best of what we've currently got. But back then there was unbridled success if you could get it. It was a different thing. It's totally different. You get a totally different vibe from watching it. And I don't know. I don't know what's the next step. I can hazard a guess to say that we'll see unemployment spike. I don't think there's a world war. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I think my friend's going to laugh at that Freudian slip. I think there is no need for any of this nonsense on the planet. If I was the headmaster of the planet, I would just tell them to tuck their head in. That's it. I don't think sanctions are going to help anyone. There's very little that you can say now which is still legally okay to say about any country at all, one in particular. And I'm not saying anything against that country. I'm just asking, are we sure this is what we're doing? Are we sure this is what we should be doing right now? Maybe it is all part of fulfilling some prophecy. Could you imagine if all of this is just like someone had said, okay, when these towns are destroyed or there's a conflict in this area, in some old quatrain, for instance, and everyone who's a Nostradamus fan will understand what it means. And if you don't, then look it up and then you'll get the reference. Is this the time of the tribulation? A lot of biblical scholars have commented openly. A lot of the Nostradamus people have commented openly. I'm only asking a question. Is any of that legit right now? Is this what we're looking at? Is this manufactured to resemble it in the hope that that is what makes it happen or makes it come true? You've got to think about that. Because how much of what we see today, how much of what we hear, how much of what the government say is manufactured? A lot of it. Why do we only see a certain kind of news story? Do they think this makes us feel safer? Or instills them an emotional response? Does it give us cause for panic and alarm? Does it make us wary? Examine the news stories as they're presented to you on the news, in whatever news hour or half an hour, whatever you watch, and tally the amount of stories and how they're guiding or nudging you towards a certain way of thinking. That guidance is intentional. Sure, there's, the glory days of news before it was sponsored. The glory days. Back when the news was cross-subsidized by all of the other shows on that network. Because, networks didn't have more than one channel, so all the advertising that was being contributed to the station is being shared across all of their shows. And the news was devoid of advertising. They might have aired some in the breaks between stories, but it wasn't directly sponsored by any brand. And so it remained loyal to being impartial to everything. And that's how they could get away with it. That it was pretty good. That was a glory day of news, and there was a lot of reporters actually reporting what they'd researched. to be able to bring you the scoop. Remember that term, the scoop? Where do we find that now? We find that on YouTube. We find that on Rumble. We find very few people willing to stick their neck out and survive lawsuits by the people who are attempting to hide the truth. And then there's someone recent, might have been French, who the judge said that the people pursuing that person could not be charged with, and they dropped the case, could not be charged with, I think, a libel or defamation. Defamation it was. So, because they made a claim, and the claim is still a claim, it's not a fact, it's a claim, and the only reason I think is because to prove it, to prove the claim real or false, would have provided the ammunition or the proof that they were trying to or attempting to conceal. That's a guess of mine. I don't know what the judge thought writing the conclusion, or coming to the finding, but that's the way it stood. It's like let's say, the people who were making the claims against Epstein and others were paid outside of court, given an NDA, and that's all you can talk about it. But in itself, those people they were making claims against didn't fight the claim in court to win. They paid them out to silence them, and that was where that story ended. If you think about that for a minute. So why isn't that guilty? That should... you either fight your innocence, or is the other option just paying out the people who are making the claim against you so they'll never talk? Huh? If you were accusing someone of breaking and entering and they paid you out so you won't accuse them, doesn't it make your head spin that people with money can get away with anything? And of course I can't. I've got no money. So that's bad. But is our system designed for that? Was that the actual intention of our system? Or is it just an out that got created as part of a loophole that became the go-to if you need that assistance? I hope that makes sense. I hope it makes sense to all the people who are concerned, because the chat room's gone quiet. I don't know why. They should be drinking coffee, catching up, but they're not. I don't know. Maybe they're mortified. Still listening, of course, but mortified at this experience. Maybe they've collapsed on the ground and are having an out-of-body experience. Whatever it happens to be, with 2 minutes left for this hour, for Platos Cave, for Thursday morning, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. I just want to have you think. And if you're watching this in any kind of reel or short or long form, do comment. Please comment. Please like and subscribe to our channel and help us with the algorithm. All of those new subscribers will not win anything. They'll gain by being able to be notified when we release new material, whether it's short or reel, or have you, whatever it is. And we'd like to know what you were thinking when we broadcast our show. When you hear what we have to say. If you have a thought, you can put it in there. If you have an argument against what we're saying, we'll learn. We're smart enough to be able to change stance on something by accepting all new information and not cherry picking that will cement us into our bunkers. Although I do want a bunker, that'd be great. If someone could supply me a bunker, that'd be fantastic. But that's the end at Platos Cave for the 17th of July, 2025. I'm sure something is coming up next. It always does. But I'm going to say, in the meantime, be safe. And do catch our show Sunday. I know it's 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern time, but you can still watch it anywhere else on the globe at a reasonable hour. And I know that there's a replay of our show back in maybe 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock the next day. So do that. Try and stay informed. And we'll catch you yet again next week, Tuesday and Thursday, 7 o'clock in the morning for Platos Cave. And fingers crossed, Meckie's okay. Take care, everyone.